Hi, this is a presentation on the no discount contract, which is the basis of the full value contract that a lot of people use. My name is Brent Bell. I'm from the University of Hampshire. And I want to sort of argue that the no discount contract is a worthy choice for using contracts if you're using a full value contract or even an option to use in replace of it. So let's get started here. So, really, the history of this social contracting really comes from a popular book in the 1970s by Eric Berne. And so Eric Berne was a psychologist. He was very popular, and he came up with this theory called transactional analysis. And really, from transactional analysis, he had some beliefs that you could make these contracts as a therapist and a patient, let's say, could make contracts and agreements on how they would behave. And so that was really the basis of this. Now, a little bit about Eric Berne. He was, a pretty famous best-selling author, and he developed this transactional analysis theory in 1958. And here was this real belief that were a little bit different from a lot of psychologists and kind of the leading edge of the humanist movement. And he really believed that all people had value. They could actualize themselves, and he really believed that a lot of what was happening in psychology really happened at the transactions or the communications between people. That's how people um, really manage their relationships, and that's what caused a lot of pain and confusion, etc. But what he found is that there's this lack of authenticity in these relationships oftentimes because people get stuck in these scripts. They learn these rules to communication that would have them say things or act out roles that really weren't truly authentic to how they were feeling. And so he really saw that these transactions sometimes would have these complementary inauthenticities, and that could cause some problems. And what he's really looking for is trying to create more authenticity in communication. So that really became this basis of these core beliefs of his theory of transactional analysis, which gets to the contracting in a moment. And basically, things that sound familiar. Everyone belongs to humanity. They have intrinsic full value. Everyone can think. Everyone can change. People have the right to change their minds, and then part of that, because people are autonomous beings, they can enter into interpersonal contracts or agreements, and specifically about relationships with each other. And some of his core assumptions are just that people are always okay. It's the behaviors that can be unacceptable, and something that a lot of people understand today. It's a pretty frequent belief, or well used belief. People are on a life journey. People can grow. People make decisions. They behave, and this idea that we cannot change people, but we can only influence them. So because people are sort of the source of the decision making, it's really about influence, not manipulation, right? Through this, what Byrne comes up with is he has this book that's a best-selling book called "Games People Play," and it lays out a lot of his beliefs, and there's a backbone for his popularity. But some of the things out of that, terms that come out of that, is this idea of contracting. And what I mentioned before is he really saw this as a explicit agreements about how people are going to work with each other, or how the relationship is going to be negotiated. And this also could be used with groups, and has been used with groups, right, as a commitment to the ideals of behavior. So that's really where we get to no discount and full value contracts. And it's often sort of expresses these explicit agreements, right? You either verbalize it, maybe in some kind of ritual. Does everyone agree to this? Or you can sign the bandana, or there's other ways that we would ritualize this. Now, one of the important parts about this, the benefits of contracting, is this idea of having a cognitive hook. And what that means is a cognitive hook's like a word or phrase that maybe can uh, make relevant a schema of behavior. And so I think of, like, in the movie theater, if someone screams fire, we typically know what we're supposed to do, right? Fire means that there's an emergency, we need to evacuate. And so we would start to get up and evacuate rather than sort of look at the person and look for more information, right? It communicates a lot in one term. And so it's kind of this loaded meaning. So no discount, I find, can be a really effective cognitive hook and sometimes for full value as well. But that's one of the real benefits of it. And so the idea that when we have these agreements says a lot. So from these kind of basis of these terms and theories, we have the history of contracts in outdoor education, which basically starts with Outward Bound. And so early Outward Bound operated in a fairly strict militaristic manner, right? Outward Bound comes to the U.S. in the late 60s and early 70s, and it's the same time when there's this human potential movement, which is really growing. And Eric Byrne is part of that. He's a contributor to that human potential movement. But also, there's Outward Bound instructors who are learning about these theories. And Rick Medrick, who was one of the instructors and staff members and trainers at Outward Bound, really started to incorporate a lot of this human potential movement philosophy, kind of new age psychology that was going on. And part of that was taking some of Eric Byrne's work and creating the no discount contract. And so it's based upon transactional analysis, right? So the no discount contract basically has 5 components. And so it's this kind of belief that everyone has full value, right? But sometimes people will do things that where they will discount themselves, others, or the group. And so how you discount yourself would be that, you might put yourself down. A lot of times you see the qualifiers like, this is a stupid idea, but I was thinking we should do X. Or, oh, I'm really not good at this, but I was wondering. And, you kind of can treat yourself as less than your full value, right? You try not to discount others. So discounting others is usually we motivate people by maybe try to shame them or call them names. You're no good. You're fat. You're ugly. You're slow. You're lazy. Oftentimes people can say that was a way to try to change someone, and we try to refrain from that. It doesn't work. Don't discount the group. The group that we travel in has value. The group that we're together has value. So we try to be on time. We try to help out with what the group's mission is. We try to be a cooperative to group goals. And then the last two are this idea of like speaking your truth. And so really asking people to search themselves to try to figure out what's true for them and be confident and willing to express that to the group. So that's kind of like the sort of authenticity that we really hope to see. And then the last one is that we're willing to confront people that we have a problem with. And so we try in our group, we don't discount it by maybe trying to talk behind people's backs or try to create different subgroups that go against each other, but we try to bring our problems to the group, try to value that the group has value. We don't discount it. We try to make sure it's a healthy place that's functioning as the best it can be. So this contract starts getting used in the late 60s and the 70s and has a lot of proponents and people that like it. And I got to participate in this, like a whole like summer school program was using this at a summer high school, and I just saw it do an amazing change of community. It was a really healthy community, and students really lived these ideals. And it was really fun to see. Well, what happened is that there's this transition to the full value contract, and what that was is basically trying to take the same ideals as the no discount, but try to use the positive psychology spin. Is let's talk about the ideals rather than talking about what we don't want people to do. And so that's led to full value contract, which is often a constructivist process, right? So most people that I've seen using full value that will, and myself included, would maybe have the group create like what would be the idioculture that we want to establish within our small group. Like what are the values? What do we want to make sure happens here? And people might go through a process of trying to identify that and actually write their own contract. And that seems to be a pretty effective experience that I've seen people use. And sometimes that contract is written on a bandana or brought with them, and it's read throughout the trip. Other models are, Project Adventure talked about, sort of be here now, be safe, be open. And so you have these kind of easy cognitive hook-like terms that can be used to remind people of the full value contract, or play hard, play fair, etc. And then the one I've seen a lot is the five finger contract, where you talk about, the thumb stands for, like, okay, all right, the like the middle finger is talked about. You don't give people the middle finger. You try to respect people. The ring finger is about commitment. The pinky is about the little guy and safety, etc. So those we have those kind of contracts that are being used. Um, but I think the problem with this becomes is that I have found in my experience that no discount creates more benefits for discussion. And so, in my concluding thoughts, I would just say that 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 no discount is a really strong cognitive hook. If you see behavior on a trip, someone is putting themselves down, or is not contributing to the team, you can say, "Hey, no discount," and it's a pretty great hook that people understand what's going on. I also think it's easier for the group to use that, so it's more quickly adopted. Um, and it also, what I have found is that almost 95% to maybe even 99% of all the times I've heard someone say no discount, it was really about someone discounting themselves rather than someone discounting the group or discounting others. And that really brings a sense of awareness about people's own uh, ways that they put themselves down. And this is especially, I found this like really important with young women who have found a communication pattern, maybe to try to discount themselves as a way that they feel like softens their expressions, so they might not be so easily rejected. And I have found that that's been a really positive experience when people become aware of that. Also, the framing around this can sometimes feel more authentic than maybe saying, "Hey, give everyone their full value," instead of, "Hey, no discount." And so I think that I think if you want the group to kind of attach to this and use it, especially a group that might not be so sophisticated, I think that this is a really beneficial way to do contracting. Now, full value contract also has some benefits. I really love the way that full value contracts can be used and constructed by the group, and that can really be a process that people really commit to when they make their own contract. And I think that there's some people and some groups even that respond better to positive framing of things. Least to say that these can really work well together because they're really two sides of the same coin, right? So you can have a constructed full value contract, and then you can also talk about the way that full value contracts break down is through discounting, and have people maybe call out saying no discount when those things appear. Either way, the most important thing is that a group uses the contract, and that contract is reinforced as they travel. So I hope that this helped explain a little bit about the differences, the history, and give the folks listening to this the ability to experiment with this. If you have any information, questions, you can contact me. I'd be happy to send you information on the no discount contract with or full value, or share this. Thank you very much.